Oh, I'm live. Cool. I'm trying something different. I'm actually streaming um, live on my YouTube channel and my Facebook at the same time, and it looks like it's working. Look at God. Won't He do it? Won't He do it? How's everyone? I made up because I was actually about to make another video for my YouTube, and this is just kind of a test to see if I could stream on YouTube and Facebook at the same time, and looks like it's working. So that's why I'm wearing all this makeup and all this other stuff. Um, this is from my professional channel. Okay, right. So if you haven't yet, feel free to follow me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called The Honey Coach. Why did I come up with that name? I don't know, but that's just what it is. I like honey. There we go. Speaking of which, I forgot to buy some at the grocery store. But, anyways. So I said I was going to make this video. I said I was going to make this video. And the reason why I was making this video while I'm turning off everything on my phone. The last thing I need is for this thing to rain today. It'll probably rain anyway. I wanted to make this video. Now, I said some specific names, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, nah, let's make this general across the board because I think that certain things need to be put in a context. If you're going to listen to folks who call themselves professionals and they could help you get a relationship and they can help you with fill in the blank, it is what it is. Okay. Um, First of all, there's two reasons why I'm making this video. It's a couple things that I saw or experienced that happened this week. One, I had a potential client that I had to turn down from being a client because not only was he very aggressive with me over the phone, um, he was um, constantly asking me over and over and over again, is she going to come back to me? Uh, is she going to come back to me? And look at that. My live and my Facebook just stopped. Here, hold on. This is what I'm gonna do. And I guess I could just edit this later, right? Because, well, yeah, duh. I have a whole phone over here. It's like, you ain't got to be over. I'll just, I'll just do this because I want everybody to hear this. And the reason why I'm doing this also for my YouTube is because I think this is a very important conversation to have because there has been a rise. And I've had people try to label me that. And I'm like, no, no, I'm here to educate, I'm here to coach, but it's not to hopefully help you get the person you're trying to be with or get them back if you guys are broken up. Because the truth of the matter is, you can't guarantee that they'll come back. See, let's see, what was I saying? Dear relationship and love gurus, oops, y'all have seen me do this live all right away. Shut up. There's no exclamation point. I'm very calm saying it. Okay, I think we're good. Are we good? Yes, we're good. I'm now live on Facebook and I'm now live on YouTube. Look at this. All right. All right. All right. So this is what I was trying to say. What made me want to talk about this issue? I actually had something else planned for tonight. If I don't record it tonight, I'll probably record it next week. Um, but what inspired me to talk about this tonight is two things. One, I had a potential client who not only had to turn down, but I had to block. Because number one, he was extremely aggressive towards me in an abusive manner, mind you, over the phone. threatening me, all this other stuff. This dude actually said he was gonna fly me out to wherever he was at so he could let his homegirls beat me up or do whatever they're gonna do. So I gave him my first and last name. I told him that I got to leave out of Hartsfield Jackson, and then all of a sudden he had to change his mind. Anyways, but the other reason was the main reason was he was begging and pleading for me to tell him if his girl was going to come back to him, and thought that me as a coach, and outside of coaching, I'm also a therapist. It's my job to be able to decode what a person is doing and saying on social media, um, via text message, yada, 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 if it means that they're going to come back. And I kept telling him over and over again, I cannot promise they will. I'm like, they may sound like they haven't let you go yet, but that doesn't mean that they're committed, that they're not committed to letting you go. They may be just done with you. And they're acknowledging that they don't want you anymore, or this relationship is unhealthy and you need to go, right? But um, you know, that was the one thing. And the other reason why I was inspired to do this video is I saw, I guess there was some type of call and response, I guess, between a couple of, I guess, people who are considered by the public as relationship experts and gurus or whatever. Even though Kevin Samuels has never called himself a relationship guru or expert. It's the people who keep calling him that. He has labeled himself a image consultant. So I respect that. He doesn't call himself a therapist or anything like that. I may have heard him say before, like, I'm not on here to give therapy. So I highly respect that. And someone I haven't seen in years, which is April Mason, who, she's a beautiful woman and whatnot. I just could not rock with what she was saying. A lot of what she was saying was not making sense to me, because it was all this talk of masculinity and femininity, and the way she was saying I had to carry myself as a woman is not who I am. It might be something for women who can rock with that, who is that, but it's not who I am. Matter of fact, the one thing I appreciate, a few weeks ago on Facebook, I had a discussion with a gentleman who is a marriage and family therapist, um, and who's beginning his career just like I am as a professional counselor. But he said something very profound that has stuck with me, and that's, the idea of femininity and masculinity is about the principle. And I took it further and said, you know what? Being masculine and being feminine is all about, or at least embodying it is about embodying the principle of it, but it's not a personality. You see, it's just not a personality. There are women who are MMA fighters and boxers, and they play sports, and they're very tomboyish, and they fully embody and embrace the feminine principle. And as much as people may say they don't agree with that, the people who say that they do embody the feminine principle while they're doing these things would disagree, because it's not a personality. A lot of people are saying, well, being assertive is a masculine trait. Says who? Because a lot of y'all who are making these things up, also, you've never had children. And I've never had children. I've been in the delivery room with clients when I was doing doula work. And I'm sorry, there was nothing soft about pushing a 10-pound baby out of your hee-haw. It's just plain and simple. There's nothing cutesy wootsy. There's nothing pink. There's nothing soft about it. So that's why I'm confused of this talk of how we're defining masculine and feminine. when all it is two sides of a spectrum and it is based on a principle. You know, anything else that defines, masculine and femininity is based on a system that you might attribute yourself to, which is okay, which is cool. That's what you do. So here is my letter. All right. Dear relationship and love gurus, even sex gurus, please shut up. Please shut the hell up. I mean, because it's getting to the point now where a lot of what you're sharing is just recklessness. And let me tell you how it is recklessness. It's one thing if you're going to share a theory and you created a theory based off of your personal experience. Matter of fact, a lot of theories that have been created is based on someone's personal experience. And they spent years through their own observation and study, whether it's a psychological study, a scientific study, a sociological study, or just their own personal observation. And from that, they birthed this theory, and that's it. Okay, fine. All right. It's another thing to try to prove your theory to be correct by trying to use statistics that you don't know how to read from studies you don't understand to try to back up what you're saying and saying, see, this is just what it is. And you're using it to throw it in our faces and be like, well, this is the reality. Y'all ain't going to get married because you don't act like this and you don't act like that. Listen, Black women in particular, it's been very clear to us. It's been made very clear to us ever since at least James Earl Jones came public and talked about it on television about how we're too militant, we're too strong, and we're not feminine enough and all this other stuff, and y'all don't want this. Okay, we totally get it. All right. And probably somewhere in the 2000s, probably getting into this last decade, I was sharing with a few friends of mine, because a lot of my male friends have been saying the same thing about how y'all want a feminine woman and you're tired of these women shaking their tails and making it clap and you don't like their optics. And I shared with them as response that as women, and especially Black women, we don't care what you think. These little nuanced things about our personalities, how we carry ourselves, what we do on our Instagrams, how we act in public, yada, yada, yada. Listen, Black women are not a monolith as it is, but as a whole, any woman is not, at least a woman who is sure of herself, is not checking for your opinion. In fact, we don't understand why y'all are still giving your opinion on what you think defines a woman. Likewise, a lot of women are talking about what makes a man. And it's a bunch of shit that is just unrealistic and ridiculous. And my problem with men is, why are y'all responding to this? Like, why? Okay, that's not who you are, and it doesn't matter. Because end of the day, the only ones doing all this complaining, all this shit talk, all this research, all this theorizing, yada, 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 is single motherfuckers who still trying to figure themselves out. Sorry for cussing, but that's just what it is. And not to weaponize this singleness. I'm single, yet I'm in a very happy, loving relationship. And I love this guy. He loves me. We both have declared our love to each other and all these other wonderful things. We don't post it all over social media. Matter of fact, he does not have a social media. I, at this point, only have a social media because I'm building my work and my brand with the work that I do. That's the only reason. I'm barely on here anyway, except to see what family's doing or to make videos like this. By the way, I'm doing a live stream on my YouTube for those who's watching. The problem is this. What's missing from a lot of these conversations from these so-called YouTube gurus and YouTube historians and whatever you want to call them, these YouTube experts who have no clue what it is to understand and read research, who don't they have their own theory, but they can't compare it to anything else because they don't know about anything else that's out there. And their only excuse is, well, you don't have to have a degree to do this. If what I do works, it works. But boo boo. End of the day, what's missing is this component. The component that's missing is that there's not much talk about exploring yourself, knowing who you are. No one talks about knowledge of self. And especially if you are Black, if you are of African descent, especially here in the diaspora, one of the things that is part of our roots, that's part of many of the African cultures, especially ancient cultures, is the idea that it's important to have knowledge of self. And no one talks about knowledge of self. Everyone talks about what they think about you and who they think you are. But no one talks about helping you to explore who you are. And I think that's the most important thing before we could even get into any talk about relationships, about getting married and all this other stuff. It is pointless to continue to sit here and continue to talk about how this percentage of Black men is single with no children and making this much money, and this percentage of women are single with children, and none of these Black men want you Black bitches, and yada, 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 and that's why it's like this, and Black women ain't feminine enough, and Black men ain't shit, and going back and forth, and then try to explain to us like y'all got to teach us what feminine is, and what masculine is, and what it is to be a man, and what it is to be a woman. And then you want to bring on some statistics that you get off of these websites without even vetting the website and not even vetting the facts from these websites, not even knowing where the facts come from, not even knowing how old the facts are, not even knowing if the facts you're presenting are relevant to the discussion that you're giving, and combining it all up and creating all this controversy. And everybody is scripting and like we're throwing tomatoes at you because we're like, we know it's BS. We know. And then there's some of you who are just insecure, so insecure to where you're going to try it because maybe it'll work. And some of y'all have tried it and it actually did work. But how long is it going to work for? Because you can only be someone else for so long, just for the sake of having a man or having a woman. And then I don't even want to get into this. The thing, let me tell you how I checked out years ago. I checked out years ago when our men especially has made it very clear that I'm not pretty enough, I don't have it together enough for them, and there's a certain type of woman that men want, and I'm too aggressive for any man to want me. I've heard men and women telling me this for years. And the one decision I made a long time ago is that I was not going to compromise who I am for anyone. As long as I'm not a harm to myself or anyone else, as long as I am not abusive, as long as I'm continuing to work on my character, which is a key here. The key thing that needs to be talked about is character. Not if you're soft enough, not if you're hard enough, not if you're this, not if you're that, and making up all these wonderful sounding ideologies of what it is to be a bad bitch, what it is to be that woman that any man wants, what it is to be a high valued man. How is it that we can engage in these conversations and don't talk about knowledge of self? When I got into this field, when I got trained first Um, I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. I got trained in clinical sexology and coaching. I just completed my master's in counseling psych. I'm working towards my license as a therapist. When I am in session with a client who may have a sexual issue, who may be um, exploring themselves, exploring their sex life, exploring their sexual or gender identity, I'm not sitting there doing some type of assessment to see if they're masculine enough, if they're feminine enough, if they're gay enough, if they're straight enough, if they're non binary enough, if they're this enough, if they're that enough. I'm not doing that. I might ask about their history. I might ask about their medical history, their family history. I may ask about their past relationships and their current relationships. I may ask them what their values are, what their spiritual preference is, their spirituality. I may ask them things of that nature to understand what type of treatment to provide them. And same thing with coaching clients. I don't take many coaching clients now, but even with coaching clients, people who have approached me for coaching, I still take a history, but we still focus on a goal. And those goals, I tell them it needs to be realistic goals. It needs to be a goal that has nothing to do with trying to manipulate someone into sleeping with you, into being with you, even into leaving you. It should have nothing to do with the other person unless this is going to be couples coaching, because that's the only way it's going to work. And you both want to make it work. You both want to enhance your intimacy, and you both want to enhance your relationship. You want to get pizzazz back into your sex life. That's the only way. But if the other person's not involved, boo boo, we're only working on you. And we're only working on how you define you, how you identify. We work on what you're looking for. We work on looking at your blind spots. I'm not there to force you to be anything. I'm not there to tell you that you need to be more of this and more of that. That's not my job. And the problem is that you're listening to these gurus who think that that is their job. That's not their job. They've made it their job. People have used it. It may resonate with some folks, but the reason why nobody rocks with it is because it don't resonate with most of us. Because end of the day, when you come home, when you lay down, you're laying with yourself. And even if you're laying with your partner, you're still in this body. The body you're in is who you are in, is what you are in. And I cannot tell you about your experience. I can't. I can't tell you that your experience is going to be this way if you do this. Even if I pay attention to your behavior and your behavior is predictable, even then I still can't just 100% say this is how it's going to be at all. So my problem with a lot of these coaches, experts, gurus, whether they have a certificate or not, and some of them have these certificates they got in a weekend and they think that all of a sudden they know something. Meanwhile, there's folks like me and folks that I'm connected with and folks out there who I don't know who are understanding what I'm saying, that put in the work, put in the time. They're always studying. They're always learning. They're always sharpening themselves as clinicians, as coaches, as whatever it is. And their only passion is to provide a service for people that could potentially change their life for the better, that could potentially be something that's going to benefit them. I've told clients, no matter I'm counseling or coaching, my intention in our sessions, my intention of providing this service to you and anyone who comes to me for this service is to provide a space, a safe space where you can explore who you are and get to a place to where you could celebrate you. And then out of that, you can have the life, specifically the sex life and the love life you are looking for. And you can go out there and date if you're single. You can enhance the relationship you're currently in. You can enhance the marriage you're currently in. You could save your marriage if that's what you both want to do. Or you could have the strength to let it go if that's not what the other person wants to do. And know that going forward, you're still enough. That has been my intention this entire time. For the last decade, longer than that, since I started this journey many years ago, that has been my intention to do this work. That's it. So I'm sorry if I am slightly, if not completely irritated when I hear these videos and watch these interviews and all this other stuff. And it's often between toxic people to begin with. And it's not to say that some of us is not toxic. All of us is dealing with some type of toxicity in our lives. We're dealing with some type of trauma. We're dealing with some type of hurt or pain from our past. So it's not even about that. But it's about, can you be accountable enough to own your shit? Instead of sitting up here and talking about what's feminine, what's masculine, why Black women aren't getting married, why Black men aren't marrying Black women, and feeding into this nonsensical narrative that in many cases is not true and cannot even be proven. It may be true to some of you, but it cannot be proven as a whole. But sitting up here talking about this stuff, making it the gospel truth, and then you're capitalizing off of it. You're getting rich off of our pain just to drive more pain into our lives. And that is what I have a problem with. I can at least respect the fact that Kevin Samuels gives a disclaimer that he is not a relationship therapist. He is not a guru. He is an image consultant where he deals with a specific population, and he's answering questions from men and women who is seeking to have a specific lifestyle. So he's at least speaking on that. But you, sir, and you, ma'am, Miss April Mason, and all you other folks that has been capitalizing off of this relationship drama and mess for years. The problem I have with you, which is why I titled this video to just shut up, is the fact that you go further than you need to go. You take information that don't even apply to what you're talking about. And I don't even know if y'all even know how to read or interpret the studies and the information you try to use to back up what you trying to say. And listen, this ain't even up for a debate. Part of my job was having to understand research, to understand how to conduct research, to understand how to interpret research, to understand how to read research, to understand how to write the research, report on the research, or write about the research. Because a major part of my job is research, especially when I'm working with people having to use evidence-based theory, I can't think right now, evidence-based techniques, evidence-based interventions, evidence-based coaching strategies. And even then, with evidence-based is still subjective. Evidence-based don't work for everyone. I can't use CBT with all my clients. A lot of my clients, I have to psychoanalyze them because a lot of my clients are in a space where they don't know how to dig out of that hole. And I don't know where they're at. So I have to just sit and listen and pay attention. But to take your theory, to take your ideology, that can possibly work for people, but try to make it to where this is the end all be all. This is it. This is it. And then you sell it. And then on top of that, you take scientific study. Your shit has not been vetted by scientists. And matter of fact, scientists, psychologists, anyone in the field under the science umbrella, where it's sociological, whether it's natural sciences, whether it's psychological science, whatever it is under that umbrella, we just don't pay y'all attention to begin with. Even Iyanla Vanzant has been smart enough on her show when she had it to make it clear that she is a coach. She is not a therapist. At some point when she realized she had to start getting psychological testing done and assessments done on certain people that came on her show, like that's when I knew like she knows her stuff. And she makes it clear you're there for coaching. And you've not one time sat up there and heard her say, well, this is what it is for. No. She gave her idea, but she didn't sit up here and try to find the first website she Googled, the first Wikipedia post that she Googled about to try to back up whatever it is, whatever point she's trying to point, because that's not your job. It's not her job. It's not my job. It's not your job. And the reason why this is such a messy situation now, especially with our people, is because all we've done is taken what was already toxic and we've added more toxicities to what was already there. And then now trying to dig out of the bullshit is damn near impossible. Except for the fact that people like me are at least smart enough to point it out and be like, yo, this is not it. And there's a lot of other people who are your viewers or who have viewed your videos and listened to your bullshit, and they know with their common sense, this is not it. But the one thing that is missing that I have yet to hear from any quote unquote guru is that it's not just about you finding your partner. Why are you trying to find your partner and you have not found yourself? How can you love someone else and you can't love you? I had to get real with myself, even in the relationship I'm in right now, and understand that I cannot fully commit to someone if I don't understand the concept of committing to me. Because end of the day, I came into this world with nothing. I will leave this world with nothing. And everything in between are the experiences that I'm going to have. And it is about being proactive in those experiences in a healthy way. And part of being proactive is knowledge of self. It is not becoming more masculine or more feminine, more submissive, more of a leader. No, it's about you becoming more of you, to be who God created you to be. Because let me tell you one thing, who you are, who God made you to be, it is more than enough. And if you can get that, I promise you, if you are blessed to be able to share this life with someone else, then you'll understand the blessing that your partners experience being with you. So what that you're a woman that don't know how to cook and you're a man who don't know how to change tires? Who cares? Publix has already made food. And how many places can you go to have your tires changed for the low? We need to stop with this foolishness. No, it's not the 50s anymore. I get it. A lot of stuff happened in the 60s that ruined our relationships, yada, yada, yada. I get it. And it is 2021. We're moving into 2022 at the time I'm making this video. What are the times saying that we're going to have successful relationships? The one thing I can tell you that I noticed that has not been talked about in decades, maybe even centuries, especially amongst our people, is that we are lacking knowledge of self. If you don't know who you are, how are you going to be able to be present to someone else and the love they have for you? That's just basically it for me. I watch videos. I appreciate people like that do these interviews with these so-called gurus and all this other stuff, but let's just put it all in context. At this point, a lot of what they're saying is purely entertainment. It's not really here to help you. And if it does, great. That's for you to that's for you. That's for you. Okay? I totally get it. But this is not the standard. If I listened to all the fools that used to tell me I wasn't feminine enough, that nobody will ever want me if I keep acting the way I'm acting, whatever that is, if I listened to folks telling me I was too aggressive, when in actuality, the ones who was saying that was just gaslighting for their bullshit that they were trying to cover up. If I listened to all those folks, when I tell you, I don't know where I'd be at. I don't know. It's not too late to be comfortable in your skin. It's not too late to embrace who you are. Listen, if you're a crazy bitch, fine, you're a crazy bitch. Let me tell you something. I'm a crazy bitch. And anybody who's related to me, you understand. I'm not afraid. You ain't about to jump up in my face and I don't jump back. That's just basically what it is. But because I know that about myself, I know who not to connect with. I had this conversation with my guy. Both of us is crazy. In our past relationships, both of us have been crazy. And as a result, we have the most harmonious relationship you could possibly ever see. We don't argue. We've never argued. We have disagreements. We don't agree on everything. Please believe that. But we're not screaming to the top of our lungs. We made that a standard. We made that a requirement when we first met. When I said it, he's like, oh, good, because I don't do that shit, because that's not what we do. Now, if some of y'all need that in y'all's relationships, I hope you find that. But let me tell you something. It takes you knowing who you are and what works for you. It takes you understanding what your values are. This is not about if you're feminine enough or if you're masculine enough. It's about you understanding that you are enough. Do you understand that you are enough? And it took me years to get to that place with myself, to embrace that I'm enough. I may not be masculine, I'm sorry, I may be too masculine for you. I may not be feminine enough for you. I may be too aggressive. I may have too much mouth. I may not be attractive enough. I may not be pretty enough. I may not have enough money. I may not have enough this. I may not have enough ass or tits for you. My waist may not be small enough for you. Who cares? Who cares? With the people who are dying left and right, trying to be enough for people who will never be satisfied with them, I think it is safe to say that maybe it's time that you explore what makes you you, what makes you great. Explore your flaws, quote unquote flaws. Because let me tell you something. End of the day, if this is about you getting a relationship, the one thing that I can promise you, I can't promise that you'll find somebody this year or this month, even ever. One thing I can promise you is that if and when you do, that person's going to love everything about you, every inch of you, from your flaws, what you consider flaws, to your mistakes, to the things you've learned, to the things that you're still trying to explore. They're going to love everything about you. Period. And now, another video, I'll talk about how love isn't enough because now you have to get into values. But those are two things we got to get into values. Okay, if you want a husband that's going to be the breadwinner and you have children because you want to be a stay at home mom, you can have that. And for those of you who keep saying that's not realistic, boo boo, I work in North Georgia and I work with children and adults every day. Folks live in houses, they live in trailers, they live where they live. And I have yet to find one household where both parents go to work every day. Practically every household, if they're not in foster care, Practically every household that I've worked with, the mom is a stay-at-home mom. And no, they don't look like me. And no, they don't look like a lot of us up here. So it's possible. And you could say, well, that's just how white people are up there. How about it's not just about white people, it's about what are your values? And if that is what you value, that's what you look for. That's what you need to connect with. And stop listening to anyone who tries to sway you away from your values. Me, I don't have any desire to be a stay at home mom. I do want to have a career. If I ever have children, and I know he wants to have children one day, if we ever have children, that would be great. And I would want to make enough money to hire some help for real, hire some qualified help. And even if it means I cut back on my career some, still, I'm just saying, but that's me. That doesn't mean every woman has to be that way. We can celebrate being feminine and being masculine and not make it a monolith. We can celebrate each other and not create these stupid standards based off of what you believe and what you don't believe. Don't nobody care. Matter of fact, did nobody ask you? How about that? How about did nobody ask you? Okay. I hope y'all enjoyed my recording. I didn't mean to go this long. I gotta hurry up. I gotta eat dinner and I have somewhere to be at. But now I gotta make my real video that I'm streaming over here. But please remember that, like, again, and I say this with love. Unless what you're saying is to uplift people, um, to help people explore who they are, to put the ball back in their court. It's if you're gonna talk about femininity or soft or whatever it is, how about we just talk about let's talk about your let's take ownership of how you define these things rather than making it this is just what it is. Instead of trying to put us in this bubble. Because end of the day, I get it. You don't like women like me. You don't like other women like them over there. You don't like this type of man. You don't like that type. Okay, but seriously, for the rest of you people who are just kind of done with this bullshit like I am, I encourage you to take heed to what I'm saying and just explore yourself. You want a relationship, you can attract a relationship. Just understand that the first relationship that you need to work on is with you. And that is a relationship you're going to continue to have even when you get into a committed relationship you may be looking for. Otherwise, do what you do. All right, bye. It's time to end this.